Hello, everyone. My name's Aaron Christensen. This is Horror 101 with Dr. AC, celebrating classic horror throughout history with new episodes every Friday night. Tonight, we're talking about Little Shop of Horrors, a title that refers to two very different yet equally beloved cult classics that share a carnivorous plant, a down-on-his-luck florist, and a surprisingly dark sense of humor. Producer-director Roger Corman's The Little Shop of Horrors is an infamously low-budget black comedy shot in just a couple of days on leftover sets. Seymour, played by Jonathan Haze, is a put-upon loser with a hypochondriac mother and an overbearing boss, living in a community surrounded by wacky characters ranging from the sadistic to the snooty. His chatty botanical creation, Audrey Junior, is born with a taste for blood, a thirst that grows as rapidly as it does. While the film barely made a ripple upon its release in 1960, over time it gained a cult status through late-night TV and repertory screenings, helped along by its oddball tone and an early cameo from future superstar and Corman regular Jack Nicholson. Said scrappy little no-budget movie eventually caught the attention of composer Alan Menken and lyricist Howard Ashman, and their resulting musical appeared off-Broadway in 1982, fusing doo-wop, Motown, and musical theater with horror comedy and social satire. Reframed as a Faustian bargain with memorable tunes and cartoonish characters, the show was a surprise hit, and producer David Geffen immediately began conceiving of a way to offer filmgoers something even grander via Hollywood's ever-evolving technology. The final product, released in 1986 and directed by Muppet master Frank Oz, delivered a glossy, effects-heavy, star-studded, crowd-pleasing spectacle that managed to honor its humble origins even as it created an entirely new generation of fans. Tonight, we're celebrating both versions of Little Shop, the threadbare no-budget joke and the blockbuster musical hit. From the tiniest seeds of inspiration, mighty and monstrous things are growing down at Mushnick's. Let's head on down to Skid Row. We're going to be talking about Little Shop of Horrors. We got a double feature of the 1960 Roger Corman version and the 1986 Frank Oz version, and we have an incredible panel to chat about them with me. Let's bring everybody in, and let's say hello to JK.
AC, hello. It's great to be back.
Anna Mariah.
Hello, everybody.
First time in the doc's office, Mary Manchester.
Hello.
And our last guest in the flower shop, Dave M. Gray.
Hi.
And we're going to be chatting about The Little Shop of Horrors from 1960 and Little Shop of Horrors from 1986, celebrating its 40th anniversary. And we will be talking spoilers. So just prepare yourselves, everybody. Thanks for coming on the show and welcome. Jay, you kicked things off by talking about how much you enjoy the 1986 version. Is that the one you came to for the first time?
Yes, Aaron, that was the first one I came to. You know, this was a really unique film because, I mean, Frank Oz is legendary for the work that he's done on so many different projects, the legendary voice among everything. I mean, even if you think about Trading Places, just his cameo as the cop there is just brilliant. So he's got brilliance in spades. But this is a film I came upon, it's got to be 20 plus years ago, 25 years ago. And I'm proud to say it's the only musical soundtrack I have in my car. I know all the songs, and revisiting it when I was listening to the commentary with Frank Oz on the reissue on the Blu-ray, it was absolutely brilliant because I just start singing and my fiance next to me would just give me the weirdest freaking looks at the songs that I knew because of it. So yeah, this is one that I came upon, and honestly, I just like West Side Story, I have trouble going to any other source of Little Shop of Horrors or West Side Story other than what I've seen with the musicals. It's a brilliant adaptation, and even though the 1961 has its little quirks after watching it this week, there's nothing like the 1986 one for what they're able to do.
Anna.
So my experience with both of these was I grew up with like a VHS tape of the musical. So it was just sort of like always around. I didn't watch the 1961 until 15 or 20 years ago for the first time. I mean, I love the musical, but I think the original has some wonderful stuff in there. I mean, it obviously lays a lot of the groundwork for the musical version. Yeah, it's just always kind of felt part of my life. I have the soundtrack for the movie on cassette, Like that was like an early cassette that I remember buying for myself at one point, and like had memorized like pretty much all of the soundtrack as well, including, you know, like the number that was cut from the end of the version that we all, you know, saw for so many years until the director's cut finally came out. So like I even had that memorized and was always kind of wondering like, why wasn't that in the movie? Like, did they not have enough time? Like, what happened to that? So yeah, just love it.
Mary, we were talking backstage. You got kind of voluntold for this one. Our mutual friend John Pata was like, "Mary loves this movie," and I'm like, "Well, okay, we're going to be talking about it." So I know that you are a great affection for the 1986 one. How'd you come to it for the first time?
We were frequent renters of the movie. I think it's something we probably rented in my childhood from Blockbuster like 25 times easily. I've just always been a big Rick Moranis fan, um, possibly because of this movie. I think my mom was really into SCTV, and so that kind of made the jump to this. And so, I mean, I know all of the songs. I have so much of the dialogue just memorized from watching it so many times. And I watched the 1960 version probably 20 years ago, and I just watched it recently this week, rewatch, and I realized that I've never seen the whole thing. I did not make it through the whole movie the first time. Uh, and watching it this week, I realized why, because I really just hated it.
All right, Dave, how about you? Which one did you come to first?
Well, I saw the play first.
Okay, yep.
And then the movie. Not long after. I mean, I was tiny, but the musical movie, and
then went back to the Corman one.
Yeah, pretty close together though. I've seen the Corman one since I was tiny. So
now, did you? I know you have a theater background. Were you involved in this production?
I wasn't. My older sister was, because
Okay.
I was like 7. So my considerably older sister was.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I mean, I remember seeing the Corman version at home. It was a late night screening because it was during a winter evening, much like the one we're enjoying right now. And my mother was making rice pudding. It's very clear in my head. And I was around the corner watching Little Shop. And when Seymour pokes his head up through the toilet seat, I just thought that was the funniest freaking thing I'd ever seen. And then when I heard that they were making a movie, the musical version, I hadn't ever seen the stage version, but as soon as the movie came out, we saw stage productions all over the place, including my college. And I did audition for Orin Scrivello. I was not cast. And it was one of the first times where I went, oh, they really were going in a different direction. I didn't have any, no real heartbreak about it. Let's start off at the top. Let's talk about the Corman. Mary, we're not going to be starting with you. We'll start with Dave. Talk a little bit about what it is that you like about the Corman version. And, if you want to lay in some of the history, that's cool too.
Well, okay. So I've been here often enough, and if you ever listen to Raiders of the podcast every Sunday,
Which you should do, everybody.
You should. I say quite often that one thing I deeply love, and this is what Little Shop is in spades, is the let's go put on a show aesthetic and rhetoric. The original film was shot over 2 days on sets that were from another movie. It is very much a let's just fucking do it. And it's the thing that Corman excelled at through his whole career. And for me, Little Shop, the original, is such a unique, strange little thing. It takes humor types that weren't really done anymore by the 1960s. It takes the strangest, like, I think there's a book by the dude that created Curious George that's vaguely similar that might have inspired it. I've never read it, so it's just one of those things. Folks are like, it's from a book. Okay, whatever. So it's just this crazy little oddity that can never exist except for Corman being who he is, and the cast is wonderful. I mean, say what you want, the humor might not land, but Jonathan Haze as Seymour Krillboind is fantastic. He is the epitome of a film loser. And I don't know how you can't enjoy Dick Miller in that movie. I don't care how cold your cold black heart is. Dick Miller in The Flowers is fucking hilarious.
I'm going to also say, yes, Corman, but also the screenplay by Charles Griffith is really what sells me on it. I was going through the IMDb quotes after I'd watched it, after writing down most of them. There's just so many like completely off the charts. Like, what the hell are they even talking about? So many great malapropisms. Jackie Joseph is just utterly delightful as Audrey. She cracks me up. And she just has this completely naive quality about her. Like there's no guile to her at all. She's just straight ahead. But I also love it when she stands up for herself. She's like, look, Seymour, we're here to make out. Like, stop being a goof. Nope, I'm out of here until you stop being a nut.
The bud reveal, we can sleep on this as a horror movie, but that bud reveal, that's up there. That's an all-time great moment.
He's dripping blood, and then he later gets victims and like puts like body parts in, and he's like squeezing it like the glove that it is into the mouth of Audrey, and Audrey just like with her little mouth going nom, 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 nom. That stuff's funny. I was surprised at how much I enjoyed it as an adult, but I agree, Dave. I think part of it just comes from, if you know the backstory, it's even more delightful. They shot the 2 days of interiors, and then they shot kind of the other pick 'em up shots with second units, all the stuff that happens in the junkyard, all the walking down the streets. They added that extra scene with the prostitute so that they could pad out the running time, which is only 73 minutes. Jay, what are your thoughts about the Corman one?
I'm not a big fan of it, to be honest with you. Again, it doesn't shine too, but you got to love the merit that's behind it, what Corman was able to do with it. I mean, he was, you listen to every disciple of Corman, and it was always as cheap and as quick as possible. And you're right about the sets. You're right about the insert footage. You're right about certain scenes. The prostitute and Seymour is hysterical. Just the comic timing alone is wonderful with it. But you know, it's a really great cast. That's one of the things you have to look at. We talked about even the gentleman who's playing the dentist, even Mr. Mushnick, even Miss Shiva. You know, you have that joke that comes out later on in the 86 one in the flower shop. It's a wonderful cast that comes together, and they just have wonderful chemistry. Why, you know, you may not like the fact that it doesn't have the pizzazz of the 1986 one. Just sitting there watching the buds pop at the end, I agree with you. It's a terrifying moment to see all the faces on it, and it's something unexpected, and the cast sells it so well. But the 1960 version is just a lot of fun. You don't expect a whole lot from it, but it delivers in spades. It's just that for the first time in a long time, you could say the re-envisioning of it is just heads and tails better on everything they did, even with all the problems they had, even with the I think it was 5 months that they were shooting this and all the different stuff we'll talk about with the 1986 one. It still does. It has its own fingerprint, and it's a really fun film to go through with a lot of great and goofy characters.
Yeah, I'm fond of it because it is like this very typical like quick and dirty Corman movie. I love the framework of it being like, we're gonna do Dragnet, but like
yes.
but make it weird, right? So they have this, you know, like narrator, and it's like Detective Fink, and I'm suddenly blanking on the other one's
Frank
name.
Stooley.
Yeah, Stooley and Fink. Which is just, I mean, it's sort of like, you know, we're going to do like every joke that we can sort of cram into this lean, mean running time. And if only like some of them land, that's fine, because some of them landed. So it's one of those two that like you were saying with the dialogue, there's kind of a lot that's like jam-packed in there. You almost have to watch it a couple of times to sort of pick up on every little bit. I'm so glad that you mentioned Dick Miller too, because if nobody else was going to, which I'm sure at least Dave would have, I absolutely love his just showing up and like, I just need a dozen carnations. And then he's just there, like throughout the whole thing, just
Got nothing better to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, we got to put him in there somewhere because it's Dick Miller, right? Like, it's like peanut butter and chocolate. You can't have Roger Corman without him. It's great that he just shows up to eat flowers. I love the Audrey Junior puppet in this. I think it's really impressive for whatever the budget was, whatever possibly 4-digit.
$28,000.
Wow, 5 whole digits there.
I know.
$20,000 of that had to be in the puppet. The rest was just whatever.
Film stock and,
Yeah, stock footage.
And the ham sandwich.
I think it's really impressive what they did with the puppet in that. Of course, it's no Lyle Conway joint, but like it's still really good for what they were doing. And I love the voice. I love Audrey Junior's voice. It's so, I know we're very used to, or a lot of us are very used to, that Levi Stubbs voice, but I'm such a fan of like how the lips don't always match. It just,
right.
To me, it's just exactly what you would want in a quickie Corman movie about a human eating plant.
That is our screenwriter, Charles Griffith, who is providing the voice for Audrey Junior. And Charles Griffith actually also shows up as the robber, the one who Mushnick convinces to get inside the plant. He's also the dental patient who rushes out of Dr. Farb's office in agony as Seymour is sitting in the waiting room. So yes, he's very much involved.
His grandmother is Seymour's mom. Myrtle Vale is his grandmother, and
I love I'd forgotten, because again, we're used to him being an orphan, a child of the street, and I'm like, no, he has a mom, and his mom is hilarious. She's the alcoholic hypochondriac. I love her reading the thing. It says, if you get hit by a truck, call your physician. The doctor says you should be playing fullback for the Rams. That is just like an all-time great line.
I would be remiss if I didn't also mention like my absolute favorite cameo is obviously Jack Nicholson showing up as a character named Wilbur Force.
Yep.
And his bit as this masochistic dental patient is just, it's great. I think it does get greatly improved upon in the 86 version, but I do love like when, after he goes through his dental procedure and that turnaround and it's just like every other tooth is missing. It's just hilarious.
Well, and you see Jack Nicholson there and you go, this guy is not the great actor that he will become. Like he's still learning his craft. Like he's way over the top. He's definitely having a good time.
He's having a great time. And, it's so fun to see like very early performances from these like highly acclaimed actors and actresses. It's always just such a joy to see them in these early roles where they're just going for it. We're just going to do whatever and see what sticks. It's wonderful.
Well, again, if you're on a movie that's shooting for 2 days, Nicholson was probably there for like a couple hours. It's like, well, I'm just going to try this out because nobody's ever going to see this anyway.
Yeah, eat the scenery, man.
And Dick Miller did.
And Dick Miller does too. Yeah, literally.
And his going back to Miller, I mean, just him munching on it, he's playing it so straight. It's just wonderful to be able to see it. And then you've got such a contrast with Nicholson. He's just like over the top. They probably just walked in there. Here's 3 or 4 cups of coffee. Go right in.
Well, and Gremlins fans should be aware that these are our Futtermans right here. We got Dick Miller and Jackie Joseph are the Futtermans who appear in the Gremlins movies. So they are beloved by generations. Mary, now that you've heard us all gushing, Do you like this movie a little bit better?
Yeah, geez, even Jay loves it. He said he did it.
A little, Mary.
They
I haven't
lied to
abandoned
you.
yet,
You're gonna have to
promise.
forgive him and
I
move
feel
on.
very
Liar.
betrayed. I think, it is impossible for me to watch the Corman version without comparing it to my beloved 1986 version. And so there were a few things that I was just really struck by. And some of you touched on them already, just how jam-packed it is with ludicrous dialogue and like totally nonsensical jokes, most of which I was rolling my eyes at. I will say though, the joke that really landed for me was the music for old invalids.
Yes.
Which I was like, none of it makes any sense.
On KSIX.
Yes. Yes. I think also the other thing that struck me was just how much, I mean, not just how many jokes are jam-packed into it, but how much cast.
Yeah.
There are so many characters and so many kills compared to the 1986 version. He's just feeding all sorts of people to this plant. And I mean, I had plenty of cold-hearted observations about weird things like Mushnick's beard with like the little curl up. It makes no sense at all.
Oil can Harry, baby.
Yeah, watching the 1986 version a couple days later, I was like, oh my gosh, like Mushnick looks like Mushnick. Like they didn't go with the same beard, but he has the same feel.
Yeah.
I will say, I think the plant in the 1960 version looks like the love child of a coconut and an old avocado filled with horsehair, and I hate
I
that.
agree with that. That's a great way of putting it.
But to be fair, that's what most fly traps are. I mean,
That's how it works.
yeah. I mean, nature does not turn into Hinton generally. I've
Yeah.
tried.
Well,
Usually the hairs are, a little bristly and not like curly and like made of Excelsior, though.
was that Mary or anyone who wants to? Was that the only model they had of the plant in each stage? Because in the 86 one, Oz talked about how there was like multiple different plants at different sizes. I mean, if you guys had that one, it was really, really freaking weird, though, Mary. I agree with you on that.
Well, yeah, you've got the different stages each time because, every time he feeds it, it grows a little bit more.
And it gets more wrinkly.
Yeah. Ugh.
It wasn't built to last.
No. Not in a Corman film.
Yeah. So I think some other things that struck me. I think a lot of you guys loved the plant's voice. I did not.
Does it sound like a screenwriter who's not actually an actor?
Doesn't
Sounds
sound
like
like
a
a
New York
voice
neighbor.
actor. Yeah, it doesn't sound like a voice actor. I think the other thing that was really funny to me was like the prostitute drops a banana peel and Seymour slips on it. He kills two people with the same rock.
Yep. There's lots of rock murder.
Yeah, there's so many weird little things watching it that's just, that it does feel very special. And knowing that it was filmed in such a short amount of time, and how much is in there, it's clear that the people making the film were having just so much fun with it.
Yeah. Jonathan Haze apparently made like $400. And he said that he, has made infinitely more signing autographs at various shows and things like that than he ever got for this movie. But this movie, it should be noted, played at Cannes, the Cannes Film Festival. I mean, this is how kind of wonderful a marketer that Corman is, because I think he's also selling the fact, he wasn't shy about telling people that they shot this in 2 days. That became kind of its calling card, in the same way that, Robert Rodriguez's El Mariachi, like part of its charm was the fact that they shot it for $7,000 and it's actually a movie. I think that's part of the deal. It's like most people can't make a movie if you give them, a bunch of money and a bunch of time, they can't pull it together. And here's Corman going, you know what? I'm going to try this just because what have I got to lose but $28,000? And it's probably somebody else's money. One of the other things that Jonathan Haze talks about on the commentary track was how they would intentionally blow takes because if they didn't ruin the take, Corman would use it. And so if he felt like he wasn't going the way it wanted to go, they would intentionally ruin the take and Corman would be like, okay, I guess we have to shoot it again. But if they didn't ruin the take, Corman was like, nope, that was good. Moving on. Roger Corman's actual dentist, they borrowed his equipment for the dental equipment. And when you see Seymour kind of like crash into it, like during the fight, like Roger Corman apparently like reached out and caught it so that it wouldn't get broken because he needed to return it to his dentist unscathed.
That's where most of that $28,000 went.
Pretty much.
Right.
Two teeny bopper Bobby Soxer flower
Right.
fanatics.
Yeah.
I just a bit I love, and I love how they get represented in later versions.
The fact that Seymour, as a horticulturalist, like attracts high school girls. We're so excited about you and your plant. What you were saying, Mary, I think like the absurdity of it, I think is also part of the charm. For some, you know, like that's what I like about it is how kind of weird and bizarre, and it makes no pretense at being realistic. And I love the fact that like suddenly out of nowhere, Audrey Junior has the power of hypnotism. It can talk. Sure. It has the power to hypnotize. Sure. You could see Charles Griffith going like tapping into his inner 4-year-old and going, and then the plant started talking and then they went out. So like, I feel like there's kind of a childlike quality to it as well, which is another thing that I dig.
AC, one of the things I'll say about it is you're exactly right. And even in the 86 version, even in the Broadway show, even in all the different versions of it that have been on the stage, it's very few films you can pull from that has that obscure nature to it, that everything seems to fall right for it. There are plenty of films you can go on Tubi right now and see films about plants, about animals, about everything that just doesn't even hit some of the beats the 1960 version did. Right. It's weird. It's bizarre. It's meant for not for every fan. It's a very niche audience, but it hits all the keys when it comes to it. And then in the 86 version, to add music, to add names to it, to just add an absurdity to it and amp it up to 10, it's a very rare bloom. And I'll put my friend up here. It's a very rare bloom of a film and the story and the franchise, to be honest with you. It's really done something I try and find examples for.
Well, and I think, Anna, you were saying like there's just such a barrage of jokes, and the jokes just even extend to just the names. You know, you have Wilberforce, you have Burson Fouch, you have Gravish Mushnick, you have Audrey Fulquand. You know, it's like just these names that feel like, what the hell did this come from? But that's part of Charles Griffith just having a ball going, I'm going to make, wait, what's my favorite one? Hortense Footswanger.
The Society of Silent Flower Observers.
That's right.
Of Southern California.
Yes.
I love at the end. You listen, if it doesn't open now, we'll come back at a later time when it does.
Leonora Clyde is our prostitute. But anyway, yeah. So there's just a lot of things that I love about this because of its kind of Shaggy Dog quality. And the fact that it, kind of fell into public domain probably didn't do it any harm, because suddenly it could play on TV all the time. It could be revived at repertory shows all the time. I've wondered before on previous shows, like how Roger Corman, who's so notoriously penny pinching, would have lost the rights to film, the film group films such that they would go into public domain. But it has, again, it's done them a lot of good. I mean, a lot of people have seen these films like Bucket of Blood, like Creature from the Haunted Sea, things like that. And actually, this film, when I went back and watched Bucket of Blood a few years back, this film is basically Bucket of Blood again. It's another loser who stumbles onto murder as the means by which he can find success. And that was one of the reasons why Dick Miller, who was the star of Bucket of Blood, decided he didn't want to do the lead in this one, because he's like, I already did that one. He picked this, flower eating customer
Flower
as,
muncher.
as a
Person.
counterpoint.
Person.
But Jonathan Haze and Dick Miller showed up in tons of Corman films together. Like if you look at their filmographies, they are just littered with Corman credits.
Can we talk about what a great cook Seymour's mother is?
Yes, we should.
I love that scene so much.
With the shit your pants soup.
Chow mein. Ah, so good.
I just love his mom. I just think she's so funny. Like, what is it? She said, like, I'll just go find a nice wet alley somewhere and curl up. And I'm like, I'm going to be using that line frequently.
So they had trouble getting distribution for this because folks thought it would be seen as anti-Semitic because it had a lot of Jewish
it has
characters.
that kind of Borscht Belt quality to it,
which is one of the things that makes it special. But you know what movie they attach it to for its original double feature run?
No.
Yentl?
No, it was Mario Bava's Black Sunday.
Oh,
wow.
Interesting.
Just could you imagine
Can you
sitting down
imagine?
for Black Sunday and having to see this first?
Well, that's like Mel Brooks with The Fly. Everyone thinks it's a comedy that's going to be coming on. All of a sudden, this comes on with The Fly. It's like, well, what is it? Yeah, you know what? Talking about the Ma from Little Shop of Horrors, it reminds me a lot of Ma Kelly from Johnny Dangerously. She's sitting there every 5 seconds. Well, $499.99. Well, at least I'm going to be able to spit today. So it's a great comparison with it.
Let us venture forward. Dave, I mean, you have a little bit of background with the theatrical version.
It just started as like a weird idea.
Right.
And they began, I think, in 82.
That's when it actually got on Broadway. But yeah, they were working on it.
It wasn't
off Broadway.
Yeah.
It eventually made it to Broadway.
It
like
did make it to Broadway, but not
2003,
until
2003.
2000. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Broadway version is probably the least of them.
What makes the stage show so special is, it does spin off the general idea. And anybody who's familiar with the 1986 version, you're watching more or less a faithful adaptation of the stage show, with some significant changes, as we'll discuss. But I mean, I think part of it is the incorporation of this kind of Greek chorus of doo-wop girls. It gives it a sense of period. There's the nostalgia quality of, like setting it in the 50s. But also, there's a timelessness to it as well, much like those songs.
Probably the music is the thing that really hooked me. I can't make it through Skid Row, and I can't make it through Somewhere That's Green without crying. Because they're so... I think on the surface, if you listen to the songs just at a surface level, it's like, oh, that's really well written, or oh, that's such a bop, or it's, it's catchy, but lyrically, there's so much going on with these songs that you may not catch if you're not really listening to them. I absolutely love... In Somewhere That's Green, there's so many parts where you could laugh at what she's excited about. If you've completely forgotten the fact that she lives in a dump, people would be excited to have a big, enormous 12-inch television screen if you don't have a TV, that's going to seem huge. Or, having a Tupperware party. I know it's not part of the lyrics, but in that whole scene, it's literally everything out of a magazine. The kicker at the end of the original theatrical cut of the film, you just think they're not meant for this. And it's such a shitty thing to think, but it's just so heartbreaking too. There's this real undercurrent of sadness. And especially in Skid Row too, there's this real anger that's happening in the lyrics to that. I just will never get over those. I mean, the other songs too are fantastic. All of it's great. I honestly think one of the ones that I can't stop thinking about though is The Meek Shall Inherit. The meek are going to get what's coming to them. What the hell? I thought that, I thought they were supposed to inherit the earth, but then if you think about it, like, it's not so great, guys. Like, the earth isn't all it's cracked up to be. So lyrically, the whole thing is such a tour de force. And I don't think it gets as much recognition soundtrack wise as it should in terms of like Broadway or musical soundtracks that people talk about. I think this one deserves to be up there with any other one. And specifically for the film, like, the production on it is great. Shout out to Bob Gaudio for that, which if people don't know who he is, he was a major part of Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons. So you're gonna get that awesome like 50s, 60s production sound out of it too. He did a magnificent job with it.
A lot of things that Anna said I really resonate with. One of the things that I think really struck me watching this, I think, the sets are filthy. Like you and Skid Row being like the opening number, you really feel what a shithole they're in and how rotten Seymour and Audrey's lives are. And I think that that's a missed opportunity from the 1960 film that 1986 really grabbed onto, that kind of really makes their character arc beautiful. I think that they really have a reason to want to get out of there. You see how much their lives really suck, and why they kind of hitch themselves to this star of making their way out of Skid Row. There are little things that I forgot about, like the very opening shot when there's the sort of Don Pardo voice talking about, it's almost like in a galaxy far, far away, sort of. And you think that you're looking at like space, and then it's like an oily puddle. And I love that so much.
It's a great transition, Mary.
It really is. Music is so wonderful. It's like a top 5 musical for me. The cast is so great. There's so many incredible, I don't know if I'd call them cameos, but like so much like incredible talent that they pulled for these small parts that are just so impactful. Oh, John Candy's character.
Weird, Wink Wilkinson.
Yes, Wink Wilkinson. Just like how off-putting he was at first, and until he realizes like, oh, this is a bit, and I guess I have to play along. Christopher Guest. I couldn't help but notice, like these just great little bits of people coming in. And obviously Bill Murray's like almost completely ad-libbed scene, which made it impossible to cut together because every take was completely different.
I do want to, you mentioned the production design, and I do want to give a quick shout out to Roy Walker, who is our production designer here.
Yep.
He was somebody who worked with Kubrick. He's the production designer for The Shining and Barry Lyndon and Eyes Wide Shut. But he also did things like Sorcerer and Ryan's Daughter. Like he, as you say, you feel like you're in that world of Skid Row. Mm-hmm. And this, should be noted, this was not shot in 2 days. This was not shot for $20,000. It was a very expensive operation. It apparently was the most expensive production that Warner Brothers had ever taken on. And even actually cost more than Aliens, which was shooting around the same time in the same studio at Pinewood, because they ended up having to do reshoots. I think that's what helped push them over the edge.
Yeah, I mean, the sets are great, but really the best thing about it is it uses Ellen Green's performance from the Broadway show. I mean, she steals it at every time. There are some nice cameos, but I go for some slightly different ones. Levi Stubbs himself shows up in downtown. The Chinese florist, I can speak, is Vincent Wong, who was a Jamaican British actor who was in like a ton of Batman and Bond films as like tertiary villains. The woman that starts Downtown is Beatrice Redding, and she was a jazz singer who could do fucking anything. It's the second musical by Ashman and Menken. Their first one was an adaptation of Kurt Vonnegut's "God Bless You, Mr. Rosewater," which it's okay, but this is two titans hitting their stride because everything after this is fantastic. One of the greatest losses in film was, or theater also was Ashman's very brief lifetime. But everything they did after this is golden, and this is golden, and it's a great little movie. It's not the play. The play is better. They cut so many great songs that just work better. One of the great things in cinema that we'll never get is Steve Martin singing Now, because that's a great song as the dentist is dying, and he could have done it amazingly, and they wussed out. They did not let them go dark enough with Seymour. The movie's great. Don't get me wrong. I love it.
Yeah.
But how you guys compared it, the 1960 to this one, I compare the other two.
Well, and you talked about Ellen Greene, and she was that kind of rare performer who went from the off-Broadway production and, virtually unknown, ended up in one of the lead roles in this big budget movie. Now, granted, it's shored up by having all of these other celebrities around her, but Frank Oz, and I think David Geffen, everybody was just like, no, she's the right person for the job.
Well, Geffen did the off-Broadway soundtrack.
That's right. He did the production. He was the producer for that as well. So it made sense that he would champion her. But again, I imagine that took some convincing of the Hollywood suits to be like, no, this is the way to go. But as soon as Ellen Greene opens her mouth, whether she's singing, whether she's speaking, she's just rock solid gold right down the line.
She totally holds her own against this cast of well-knowns. Like, you would never know that, that she hadn't done this on this scale before. Like, you would have no idea. She fits in so seamlessly with these heavy hitters.
I'm going to flip the card here and give credit to Rick Moranis, because Rick Moranis not only is an incredible Seymour, but the fact that his versatility in his singing is something that seems to be overlooked. This is not a film that we're going in that it's going to be a drama and we're bringing in Broadway people. This is a Broadway film. And to have someone like Rick Moranis, who is a talented actor, we know him, we love him in so many different roles, but to have him come through and take what Ashman and Menken did with this songbook, and it's not just one style of song. That's why I love the timeless aspect that you brought up, AC. You're looking at so many different styles of music that is a part of this. And it's something that is overlooked, how even though Rick Moranis doesn't have the best voice, he does a pretty damn good job of what it is. And that shows how complete a performer he is. All right, because I love what Ellen does, and she's incredible, and I'm glad they bring someone on who has the experience to do this. But Rick Moranis also punches above his weight when it comes to this. The production design is another thing. I loved how the town looked. I loved what they did in Pinewood. I loved how they were able to build each of the sets, and not only build the sets, but the cinematography they use. One of the scenes in there that's always going to stick in my mind is when Seymour's throwing the water out the door and it hits there. The color of it, the motion of it, everything, it stuck with me for decades, because you can see a town that looks disturbing and disgusting, and that there's poverty and stuff like that, a lot of things that underline it, but it's the little details that get you. And that's one of the beautiful things that I think the 1961 doesn't, until the end with those buds blooming, really kind of capture. Even the wide shots of Seymour in the 60s version walking is there's nothing to it. It looks like something, from like The Odd Couple, something like that. So it's not something that you expect. But when Frank Oz and his team go to design this, when they create this world around this love story and this horror film, it's absolutely incredible. And Levi Stubbs, as I said before, the voice of the plant in the 60s sounds like someone who lives in Brooklyn. I mean, it really does sound like someone from there. And that's great because it doesn't really serve a purpose other than the shock value of this plant is talking. To have Levi Stubbs come in and not only embody this character, but make the character entertaining and give it personality, along with by the time it was over, the gazillion puppeteers that were making that plant come to life. It's remarkable. Both films are remarkable for different reasons. But what Levi Stubbs comes to do is something that, in my opinion, very few horror musicals, there's not a whole lot of them that really do this. It really is. Repo, the Genetic Opera, comes to mind as actually kind of a film because there's songs that kind of stick with you if you're a fan of it. But he makes those songs memorable. I would love to sing karaoke to feed me. And I would love to be the plant because you might be small like me, 5'4 3/4, but that voice, you sit there and you go, wow, I want to be that. And that's what this film's all about. It's empowering. It's got a great core to it. It's funny. Steve Martin as Oren, DDS, it's brilliant in what he's able to do with that character. And hats off to Frank Oz for bringing Bill Murray in to play the role that was made famous by Jack Nicholson, because they're both crazy in their own way. And that's a beauty that is. But there's so many things to talk about. This is unique cinema that you very rarely see.
Who doesn't love this film? This film was actually surprising. He was a huge hit with critics and with the audiences, which was great considering its high budget tag. I do want to just really quick talk about the reshoot, because apparently when they screen tested this over the summer, it was initially supposed to be a summer release, and they did a preview screening, and the audiences lost their minds because, spoiler, as is the case with the play, Audrey and Seymour die at the hands of the plant, and the plant goes on to go on a rampage. They take cuttings and spread it around. It's kind of an apocalyptic ending. And they shot that. I just found out about this. You can find it on YouTube, folks.
Yep.
You can watch the original ending of this movie, which I didn't know existed. A, I'm really glad I got my happy ending.
Right.
But B, wow.
Yep.
Because basically it's just big Audrey heads like smashing through buildings going for like 5 minutes. What are people's thoughts about the ending?
The test screening, it went from their highest rating ever up until the ending to their lowest rated ever, because in 1987, no one was ready for the, hey, by the way, capitalism is bad.
Exactly.
But yeah, no, the model work is absolutely amazing. It's it's been one of those days, and I'm brain farting on their name again.
Who's that?
The guy that did the model work is Richard Conway, who did Brazil and Flash Gordon and a bunch of other stuff. His work's always excellent.
The ending is completely outrageous, and I didn't even dare listen to the commentary of 20 minutes of what this ending was with Frank Oz, because I watched it on the director's cut. I watched both the director and the theatrical cut. And after the first 5 minutes, I'm ready to bang my head against the wall by the Godzilla theme of running through the city with big plant heads and doing everything it's got to do. It just doesn't work for me. And that probably is my biggest thing. I'm glad they kept the leads and they made the love story. And I'm glad he electrocuted Audrey too. I mean, it's just simple formula of what cinema is. The audience wants a happy ending. They're going to get a happy ending. And the way that it plays out, and the final number that goes into it, it's Mean and Green. It's just a brilliant way to be able to do it. I just love it, and I'm glad that they kept it.
The thing that I like about the director's cut is that it does bring that, sort of that original, stage ending back in terms of, the plant wins. And I do love Don't Feed the Plants. I think that's such a great song.
Yeah,
it's such a wonderful tune. I love that they really blew it out, right? Okay, it's not just that the plant wins, but then it takes over the world, and you get that cool sort of King Kong kind of thing with her on the Statue of Liberty or whatever. We're really gonna expand this out and blow that budget on this. So it's wonderful to see, but I'm still very fond of the theatrical cut. I love the question mark ending. I've always loved that in like the 50s sci-fi movies, like The End. So that pan down to like the little Audrey that's in their, beautiful, perfect flower bed out front is like, yay! Like it just kind of completes the circle of that for me. So, I mean, I'm fond of it. The special effects are great in the director's cut, but yeah, I do love the OG theatrical version.
Well, and I think the question mark ending sort of, leaves it open that maybe that original ending could still happen.
That is the whole spirit of those 1950s sci-fi movies was, we have conquered this for now, but we have to keep our guard up because, those monsters could show up anytime. When I was watching the director's cut ending, is that it doesn't really seem to be anything other than spectacle. It's just the same thing happening over and over. There's not even like multiple jokes being told. It's just more mayhem and more mayhem and more mayhem. I can imagine how much pain that must have been for Frank Oz to say, I have to kill this darling that I worked really hard on. But at the end of the day, I don't know that it's the strongest ending. When you're in the theater at a stage play and you're hearing them sing Don't Feed the Plants, and like you're not expecting the plant vines to start working their way out into the audience, like there's a treat there in that it's a fourth wall. As we're watching a movie, we're just watching a lot of special effects and we're like, yeah, we've seen that, but it doesn't necessarily provide anything dramatically other than, like you said, Anna, the finale on top of the Statue of Liberty. Like if they had just had that might have been more satisfying, but five minutes of was just
It's
5 minutes too much for me.
I think the biggest thing that we're deprived of in that cut is not getting Paul Dooley.
Right.
I think like that's the biggest loss from it. I mean, Paul Dooley plays Patrick Martin, who is like the whiz bang plant guy that interrupts the reprise of Suddenly Seymour at the end. And is like, hey, kids, I have this great idea for you. I just want to take these plant clippings and we can sell, Audrey 2s all over the world. And in the theatrical cut that pretty much everybody has seen, unfortunately, Paul Dooley, having shot that, could not come back for the reshoots for the happy ending. So they recast him with like total downgrade Jim Belushi. To me, there's no comparison. Like Paul Dooley and like Belushi is fine.
But Jim does own a marijuana farm now, so it does. He does have that plant connection. So
watching that now after he's like started Belushi's farm, it's kind of amusing in that aspect. But yeah, that is really the biggest loss because it does go on for so long.
We have neglected to talk about, in detail about our special effects because this is the greatest Muppet on screen. I was going back to it. I was blown away by how the lip syncing really does seem to be like that. Those words really seem to be coming out of this giant plant mouth. And that was incredible to me.
That's something that I learned from listening to the commentary. So the plant, whenever there's scenes with the human and the plants, it's shot at different frame rates. So it's 16, it's 24, it's 30. I found that remarkable because the way that they blend it together is so incredible. How slow the actors have to be able to work with that plant. It's remarkable. In fact, the whole thing, whether it's the frame rate, whether it's even the beats to the music, they took months doing the choreography to be able to get everyone to walk to the beats, but the quality is there with it. And whether it's in front of the camera or whether it's in what the actors are able to do, it's just an amazing work of art in how they're able to coordinate all this.
Yeah. The idea of like acting in slow motion and singing in slow motion so that you can coordinate with what Audrey 2 is going to be doing. You have these kind of big flappy lips that on stage, that's pretty much what they are. It's just a big puppet that gets flapped around. But here you're watching it like actually like use lip configurations
Enunciate.
that looking like it's
Exactly.
actually saying what it's saying. And then you got Levi Stubbs' voice coming out of it, just 100% selling it. It is a great special effect. And it really turns Audrey 2 into a genuine character.
Yep.
Like we're not thinking about it being a special effect. We're just thinking about this giant plant that sings and talks and has plans for its life. In the musical / movie version, it is a thing from space. Like it's very clear that its origins are not that it has been, purchased elsewhere. It is like, no, it came here to conquer Earth. That's what it's here for. 70 puppeteers by the finale. And the vine work is incredible.
Extraordinary. And one of the things, I mean, as it reaches that stage, kind of in between being the small little pocket to the big master version of it. I mean, if you look at this and you watch it, you can see how, the camera work is so good that you can't even tell that the Audrey head is behind the plant and they're working it that way. It's remarkable what they're able to do with the blocking of the plant in that shop. And it's you look at it and seeing how it develops and grows, the detail, the art. We were talking there, you were talking about, the collaboration or what it looks like with the horsehair and all that stuff. The detail and the art of the plant is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's Lyle Conway,
Yes.
who's our creator of the plant.
Can we talk about how sexy the plant is?
Let's.
Because, I mean, when she starts talking, we hear like a sucking noise, like a kissing, sucking noise before she says any words. And that's how it starts. And she's so cute. She's so little and cute. And she's kissing and sucking. And then by the end, she is like molesting Seymour and Audrey. And it's hot.
I
Even
didn't
as a
think we were
little
going to
kid,
go that way.
I was like, this is erotic, and
This
I
is
don't
steamy.
even understand what that means.
Well, the character is great, and the performance is great, and the puppets are great, especially when you consider not just the full size, but there's a lot of miniature work that is just incredibly impressive. The stuff Henson was doing at that time is just still today top tier, not replicated stuff.
Well, and I think about this would obviously be done with CGI now. I could not believe, as I was revisiting it this week, I could not believe that we were looking at something from 40 years ago that is a practical effect that is happening on stage in front of the actors, alongside the actors. This is a marvel to me. And it's kind of sad that we wouldn't even consider doing that again. We would just think, okay, well, let's get our pixels together and make this happen. And instead you had all of these humans who were teaming up to make this happen. And it holds up in the same way that like the effects from The Thing, 1982, in the same way that the Rob Bottin's effects hold up, this holds up like better than you could ever imagine it would. And there's no forgiving it. You don't have to like say, oh, well, it was 40 years ago. You're just like, that was amazing.
And one of the things that I love about it is it's not even just the plant. It's not even the production line. Even when they do the POV through the mouth in the dentist's office.
I was just going to say that.
No problem, man. And even the mouth when they're putting the human parts in there, those are independent pieces from everything else. I mean, they're smart enough. They have the foresight to say, we're going to put a camera through that mouth as Steve Martin singing on the other side, and the girls are there. And it's brilliant because it's not just the mouth. It feels and looks like something that you would go, oh my God. I mean, I don't want to be there. It's palpable at times in what they're able to do with it. So it's so great in what they do.
Yeah,
Mary?
that whole scene is like, they're just showing off.
Yes,
Because
they
there's
are.
really no need to have like, okay, we're going to do a POV shot of this guy singing call and response with his dentist while his dentist is drilling his teeth from the back of the throat. Like, there's no need for that. But it's like, well, why not? You know?
We're here to have fun, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we're here for a good time, not for a long time. So let's just make a giant ass puppet mouth with like a comically oversized drill going into it for perspective, because we can. It's so I'm so glad that they at least got that unnecessary special effect in there, as opposed to like the ending. Like at least they sacrificed something that was sacrificable, and not a cool ass shot.
Well, everything's so cartoonish on a huge scale. Every bit, we were talking about Christopher Guest. Cartoonish is all when he walks in there. Hello there. I mean, it's just brilliant in what they do. Every element has a cartoon. It almost feels like an EC comic that you're looking at, the different panels with the color, with the personalities. It just wants to jump off the page at you.
Yeah, there are so many incredible, like cutting edge for the time things that they were doing with the puppetry. And one of the things that I'm always just baffled by is the shot where the plant is growing. Audrey is growing. She's just eaten, and Seymour leaves, and she like bursts out of the coffee can. And I've watched, like, I have the special edition DVD, and I've watched the special features so many times where they explain how they've done it, and I know how they've done it. And watching it, I'm like, I don't get it. It looks so real. It looks so good. And that's just like one of those things that like practical effects can be so magical. And I love that about this movie.
Mary, I think one of the things also is the sound that we're not talking about. The sound right there in that scene, that coffee can is rubber and it's expanding, but yet you feel, even my fiance even asked me, she goes, where can we get one of those coffee cans for this? And it's like, it feels real. And the sound is wonderful. We always talk the music, but the sound is incredible. Building that soundtrack, that score for the city, all the sounds there, all the people, all the steps, everything that goes into that is brilliant. And then having a scene where Audrey 2's pulling herself towards the phone to make the phone call across the street, just listening to it and all the pieces that come together. It really is, again, how many films have that much detail and love put into them for it? And you want to call it the love letter, whatever you will, but it's definitely a film where all these things came together and they came together right. Nowadays, not only AC, as you talk about the CGI, but even schedules, there's no way you'd ever get 5 months to be able to do this. This would be a 30-day shoot. We do a lot of the stuff in post. It never would look the same. And I'm thankful, again, that they haven't done something like that in 40 years.
Well, they've tried.
I know. You're right, Dave, about that. But
they've tried. There's been remakes scheduled like a dozen times.
I know. But Audrey stopped them, though.
And the death of Corman stopped the latest one.
I know.
Because that was Joe Dante. That got really close. There's art of the Audrey 2 floating out there. In 1990, a little network called Fox had launched their really successful animation block, Fox Kids, which had a really successful adaptation of Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. So a year later, they did Little Shop. It's a musical with a rapping plant that ran for 13 episodes.
Wow.
You can find them all on YouTube. Right. Yeah, I made sure Anna watched some with me.
I think like the first episode I thought was kind of charming because they put in like some little touches in the background and stuff that if you're paying attention, it was kind of like cute. Like there's like a soup factory. It's Warhol's soup factory, which is kind of a cute thing. And then like it was almost a blink and you miss it kind of thing when like Seymour, who by the way in this is a like middle schooler. Audrey is Audrey Mushnick, Mushnick's daughter in this. And of course he has a great big crush on her and she just wants to be a firefighter. Oh, and then later an appliance repair person because why not? There's also a bully kid that like, you know, of course has to like beat up on Seymour because we had to have bullies and everything.
Pain Driller though with braces headgear.
Yeah, he has like the retainer braces get up. So we've got a little nod to the dentistry aspect. But there's this like blink and you miss it moment when he's doing a wrap up at the beginning or at the end of the first episode to kind of get you on course for the rest of the series where like Mushnick is checking a guy out at the register and he's eating the flowers. They put a little nod into to Dick Miller from the OG, but yeah, it's eminently skippable. There's like every episode has like a horrible rap song
Or
in
two.
Are there actual like deaths in this series?
Well, not of
No.
humans. There's weird stuff goes on with it. Lots of animated plants die, but not people.
So I think it's funny that we've been
Yeah.
talking all this time and not really bearing down on the fact that there's a lot of murder happening in both of these movies. There's a lot of murder and dismemberment, feeding body parts to carnivorous plants. And that's what makes it a horror comedy. But the fact is, like, it is about a monster plant. I had somebody ask, like, "What? That's not a horror movie." I'm like, excuse me, time out. Let me just get the body count here. Let's talk about this creature that's going to try and take over the world. Logs infinite number of murders. I think that's one of the magic of both versions of this, is that we have a great time watching this series of events unfold. But what's actually happening is people are getting murdered and fed to a plant.
One thing I'll throw in there is, and again, for both films, the casting and how well they bring these characters to life make it where no matter how much you like the supporting cast around Seymour, you're okay with them dying. You're okay with Steve Martin dying, even though he steals the show in a lot of the '86 film. You're okay with the prostitute dying because it's like a mixture between that and the cops chasing. It's like a mixture of the monkeys and the Keystone Cops as they run around the set after each other. So no matter how much they come in, how endeared you are to them, it's easy to get rid of them. And, you look at a normal horror film, it's like, this is blood, guts, and gore. That's one of the things that a lot of horror fans don't like anymore. They don't like the blood, guts, and gore. This is a film where you can go ahead and get away with it because the characters are so beloved that the other ones don't matter. They're all disposable.
Well, I think you make a really good point too, is that we have both of these films are anchored by really strong central performances of Mushnick, Audrey, and Seymour. Like we genuinely are invested in those three characters for both films, and we want to see how it's going to play out. And we're rooting for Seymour, we're rooting for Audrey, and so those other characters, if they have to die so that our heroes can live, we're okay with that. I think it's kind of a fun little bit of magic that our directors pull off.
Without a doubt, but it's also the spectacle of like a carnival where you want to see more. You want to see that plant grow. You want to see what's going to happen with it. And it's a beauty in both of them because you're there for the entire ride.
Not entirely related, but if you're a fan of Rick Moranis singing, I really beg you guys to get a copy of his album, his country album, The Agoraphobic Cowboy. Not only is it a great album name that I'm like super jealous that I didn't think of first, but it's really a solid record. Like, there are humorous songs in there, or even within a song that's maybe not so humorous, there's some lyrics that are funny, but it's a genuinely good album that flew under the radar, unfortunately, when it came out. So really, like, check it out. It's really an entertaining, enjoyable album.
Well, you should always go check out the off-Broadway staging, which is still going on. It's been going on since 2018 this time around. Tends to run for a long time.
And you know what, Dave, I'll piggyback off of that. Literally before I jumped on here, folks, if you're in the New York City area, they're offering 2-for-1 special for Little Shop of Horrors on Broadway.
And they got real cheap matinee tickets right now too.
Right,
it's like $51.
Yeah, there's a lot of good shows going on, but you can get a lot of good tickets. You're exactly right.
All right, well, let's circle back around, offer our final thoughts on our double feature of Little Shop of Horrors. Jay, go ahead and kick us off.
You don't have to. Don't see the 1960s version. It took me 2 watchings. I fell asleep halfway through the first one. I won't lie to you. As I'm getting older, up there in years, it's not easy to
73 minutes, Jay. Come on.
You know what, Aaron? I'm gonna remember that next time when I keep my fiance up all night for 73 minutes. I'm gonna remember that. But to be all honest with you, You don't need to see the 60s one. Is it fun? Absolutely. There's a lot to it. It set the foundation for what we see with this one, along with the off-Broadway show. But the 1986 one, it's a real special treat. The music alone, if you don't have the soundtrack, get the soundtrack, because the songs are infectious. You'll love them. And it does so many little things well and comes together. And hats off to Frank Oz and his team for the great job they did on this.
Anna.
Yeah, I concur with all of that. Also, like, if you're like me, don't watch the special features. Don't find out how they did it, because, like, Kermit the Frog riding a bicycle, I believe that frog is riding a bicycle. I believe that plant was actually growing in that. And I mean, I love, even, like, you talked about the sound briefly, but, like, the grunts that it makes. That's a real grunting plant, guys. That was not a special effect. They got a real plant to do that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure.
Dave.
I've spent a lot of time over the past few years thinking about, your intro to horror films or even musicals, and this is the gateway drug. This is the thing you want to push on the small kids in the parking lot and go, "Psst, I got Audrey 2 over here."
Yep.
And it's a classic for reasons that we did not do justice to, because we are just mere mortals, and this was made by divine beings looking down on us. Fucking Frank Oz. Bastard.
And Mary.
Well, I'll say I think I made a mistake watching the Corman version by myself. Yeah, you don't have to watch it, but I think if you do watch it, it's probably better in a group. As for the 1986 version, it's one of my favorite movies of all time. It's one of my favorite musicals. It's pure movie magic, just wonderful, joyful filmmaking, and so much talent, and just so much beauty in it, and it's so wonderful. And I will agree with you wholeheartedly, Dave, that it is a gateway drug into horror. I indoctrinated my own child with this movie. A kid with no interest in watching anything scary is now super into horror, and this is one of their favorite films as well. And they have friends who are like, I hate all musicals, and they've gotten them into this movie as well. So, yes.
Yeah.
Well
Do they
done.
sing the chorus? Do they sing the songs?
Yes.
Mary? Yes. Good.
Yes.
Well, I will say you should see the original, because we wouldn't have a 1986 film if there were not the 1960 film. And I also think that they are completely different beasts. So they're going to appeal to different people. The 86 version, I find to just be a technical marvel. And of course, the songs are so, robust, and I love all the performances. But there was something about going back to the 1961 with a critical eye, knowing I was going to be talking about it. Oh my gosh, there's so much going on in this. I think we talked about how kind of jam-packed it is. This was just a fly-by-night production. The idea that Charles Griffith put as much care into it as he did, that Corman realized, okay, I can get away with pretty much this workman-like camera setups, that all the performers were like, you know what, I got to get this dialogue down, and I got to say it in a way that sells it. I mean, it's just kind of an incredible feat. And so I like to celebrate it just on those terms. As you said, Dave, that let's go put on a show in 2 days. This is impossible, but we're going to do it anyway. And then from that, we get the technical marvel that is the Frank Oz production. I love anything Little Shop, and I appreciate all of you coming on and chatting about it with me.
Thank
Looking
you.
forward to having you all on again very soon. And until next time, keep searching, keep exploring, and keep sharing the scare.